It's the start of 2026 and it's time for a new collection. If you've ever wondered what it's like to start a collection, or you've been wanting to start one and it becomes chaotic halfway through the process, then same. Today, I'm walking through my process of brainstorming for a new collection from start to finish. From inspo to mood board, the test tiles, and the actual sketching. So let's get into it. Step one is to start with the feeling and not a product. Before I even start thinking about bowls or mugs, there's one question I need to ask myself, and that's, how do I want this collection to feel? Do I want it to be cozy or grounded, playful, elevated, nostalgic? And this part has nothing to do with ceramics just yet. It's more about the vibes, the season, the lifestyle. Sometimes I'll tie it to a time of the year or something that people are really looking forward to. Or sometimes it's just a simplicity of elevating a ritual like coffee in the morning. So here's what we're going to do. Let's write 3 to 5 different words and we'll allow that to guide the rest of the collection. Which for me personally, it didn't even have to be 3 to 5 words. It was just one word. And the word for my collection is immersion. Now, immersion came from this entire idea of immersing yourself into the water and just letting that water refresh you. And the entire transformation of going from like this rigid rock to now like this super smooth pebble has a lot to do with the timing of it. And it's not gonna happen overnight, but it's a process that happens over time. And I think a lot of times we need to give ourselves that same grace of knowing that like, if we feel like we're a little bit rigid right now and we're not where we wanna be, that's okay. It's gonna take time. And sometimes it feels like we're drowning, but maybe we're not necessarily drowning all that much. Maybe we're just immersed, and we need to shift our perspective in order to give ourselves more grace and allow there to be grace within the process to give ourselves time to be transformed into what we want to be and be transformed into the next version of us. So I'm not trying to diminish anyone's hardship, but it's just kind of like having a mentality check of, if right now I feel like I'm drowning, what can I do to not feel like I'm drowning, but instead feel like I'm immersed and in the process of becoming who I'm meant to be. That is the entire heart and vision behind this collection called Immersion. With that being said, there's going to be a lot of visuals of water and like rocks, and I want to achieve that through the actual glazes itself, because again, as I mentioned, I'm a mass production potter, so a lot of the times I'm using the same forms, I'm using the same glazes, and I've been doing that for the entire year. So now I want to use new glazes, which is what I'm super stoked for, because that means combos. So now that we've got the theme for our entire collection, it's time to move into step 2. Now, the mood board is where the clarity is actually gonna come into play. For this, you can use Canva, you can use Pinterest, or if you wanna go all out and have an actual vision board, like physically up somewhere, you can cut out things from magazines. Honestly, like just let your childlike wonder go with it. So when I go onto Pinterest, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna look up shore onto Pinterest and see what's on there. So I can already see some very beautiful rocks right there. And I wanna use this as an inspo. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create a little board and pin this onto that board. And as I continue scrolling, I can see other images that are very similar to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and anything that attracts my eye, whether it's specific colors or specific textures, then I can go ahead and put that into my board as well. Keeping in mind that you don't have to be just looking at other ceramicists for how they've interpreted that theme. You can go ahead to the source and find that yourself. And if you have access to physically go to that element of inspiration or that source of inspiration, then go for it. So when we're creating our mood board, we want to look for a few different things. We want to look at color palette. We want to pay attention to texture, any shapes, any silhouettes. And again, this isn't about copying anything, about narrowing down your visual language. If something doesn't fit the board, then it probably doesn't fit in the collection, and that's okay. All right, so let's move on to step number 3, and that's to choose a tight color palette. Once I have my board all set up, I want to see what are the different colors that are basically all over my board. And that's going to help me narrow down to just a few glazes, hopefully, but I know myself, I'm going to get carried away. But you kind of want to see what the overarching theme is for your color palette and find glazes that are going to be able to match that. So I would say try to limit yourself to maybe 2 to 4 different glazes. And that's because you don't want to have so many options where it doesn't feel cohesive and it feels a little bit chaotic. So just remember, too many colors equals a chaotic collection versus fewer color is cohesive and intentional. And again, this is just straightforward how I like to do my collections, but if you're all about like so many colors and like you really want to have a big palette to tell a story and share a specific vision you have, then go for it. Don't listen to this, it doesn't apply to you. But it's just for more like collections that you're going to have a template and a formula for, so you can do multiple collections throughout your journey. This is going to help later on when you're glazing, and if something feels off, then it's probably because it doesn't fit in the collection. And again, that's okay. And the reason why we want to do test styles is because we want to experiment before committing to anything, especially if you're trying combinations that you've never tried before, or if you're trying glazes you've never tried before. And when you're doing a test tile, what you want to be mindful about is the thickness, the layering of the combos, the clay and the glaze interaction, and the surface texture. Tiles can actually save time, clay, and let's be honest, disappointment. This is where the collection actually starts becoming real. And making test tiles is not even all that hard, even though it could be a little bit tedious. So you want to make sure you're writing down what the combinations are or what the glazes are. This could be as simple as numbering your test tiles and then having a notebook, or you can write the specific name of the glaze on the test tile itself by just putting the code. You don't have to say the full legal name of it. And if you're doing a little bit more extravagant combinations, then you can kind of sketch out your glaze onto a notebook and say like, this full amount is this specific glaze, the top half is this glaze, and the middle is this glaze, because you can't really see where the glazes are going to start or end for some combinations, and it kind of like all blends and merges together. So seeing what is working well and what is not working well by writing down what you're doing is going to be key. It doesn't have to be just like different glazes that we're like trying out in the firing, because it can be as simple as like, how does this glaze look in a cone 5 versus a cone 6, or how does it look with 2 layers versus 3 layers, or the thickness of the application of a layer. Like, so much is going to go into play with all of this that it helps you understand that a test tile is not wasting resources. And if you're disappointed because the test tile didn't turn out, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal, because it's not this beautiful mug that you spent so much time on. But okay, let's talk about these test tiles. I actually put them on a plate as a cookie, and I'm happy because 3 of these got stuck, and some of these were hits, some of these were not so great. So let's go ahead and talk about it. But this one, I just didn't enjoy it because like, this is meant to be gold up here, but it looked a little bit more dark, so this isn't a winner. This one's a combo of 3 different glazes, which I feel like this needs to be a little bit thicker, and this bubbled a little bit, so that might have been too thick of an application. This one was nice. I don't feel like you guys can really appreciate what they are. This one is nice, but it felt a little bit runny, and there's a better combination of this in a different test tile. This one, I feel like I really appreciate this combination right here, but that's the actual glaze itself, versus this is honey flecks up top, and I don't feel like it did much, or it might have been just a little bit too thick. And then we have this one right here, and I feel like it's just not giving the color palette that I want for my collection. This one right here I thought was pretty cool, but not really what we're going for. This one right here I feel like is very similar to that first one. The shine is beautiful up here, but not really what we're looking for. I thought this one was pretty, like, a good combination, but there's actually another combination that is going to accentuate a lot more what I'm loving about this one. So there's one that's better than this one. For this one specifically, I just was experimenting with the this blue glaze that I have, but it's not necessarily giving what I wanted to give. This one also felt just a little bit straightforward and not necessarily what I'm looking for. This one I thought was nice, but again, there's just like other combinations that are a lot better for what I'm going for. I did really enjoy the top of this one, which this is Solar Flare, so I'm loving this, and I'm gonna see it in a different combination. This one I thought was stunning, and we're getting more towards the vibe that I'm going for, but there's a better combination that's gonna do a lot more. This one is Solar Flare on its own, and I'm actually obsessed with it, but I think this is not for this specific collection. I think it's gonna be for a different collection. And now we're coming on to the 3 that got stuck. So let's talk about these. I think these are genuinely giving that like rock formation color that I'm going for, especially this one. The only thing is that for these combinations, I'm gonna make sure that I'm a lot higher in my piece so they don't get stuck like they did here. I'm realizing that also this specific glaze, which is the iron luster, is gonna make everything very, very runny, which one of them was iron luster and ancient jasper, and those just make a mess when they're together. So good to know is that together they're gonna be extremely runny, or if I have one of the 2 in a combination, it's gonna run. So that's what we learned from this. And no kiln shelves were injured in the process. So the first one is going to be this guy right here. This one is going to be black walnut with honey flecks on top. And then the back version is a honey flecks underneath and the black walnut up top. which I think both are stunning for the collection that I'm going for. The other one that I enjoyed was this one right here. And this one, I don't remember what the names of the glazes are, but it's basically SW173 with PC33 up top. And I like how it looks in combination, so I might do the entire piece in the combo versus half and half. This one I really enjoyed. This is SW174 on top of Honey Flex, so I like this as opposed to the reversal. I think this is the win because it's just giving that like ocean water vibe. The next one is going to give more of that like rock vibe right there. This is SW111 over PC17. So we got that Honey Flex really bringing in amazing colors. And then we've got this one, another black walnut, and SW131. I can't remember the names to the codes, but I really like it too. And the last one is this one, which, look at that. This just looks like a waterfall to me. This is going to be the PC33 over the Honey Flex. That's essentially our color palette for this collection of immersion, and I think it is for sure more than the 2 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we got 7. It's because at least for this collection itself, it's not going to be a collection where it's a big drop, but it's like a micro drop where I just want to have fun experimenting, and the story really resonated with me in this season, and I want to express that story through what I can create. So I think that's more of the importance for me for this specific collection, but you'll see that for my actual big drop collection that is coming up in a few months. I'm gonna be following the same format, but I'm gonna be a lot more strict on myself on honey glazes because it is gonna be a bigger drop. But because this one's more of a micro drop, I'm okay with just doing a little bit more combinations because it's not gonna be as high of a stressor as if I was doing mass production and I have to do like 50 mugs and 7 different glazes. So that's the reason why I'm okay with doing a little bit more glazes for this micro drop. Now, step number 5 is sketching forms with intention. Now, this has nothing to do with you being a perfect illustrator, but this has to be with just getting something down on paper. It's more about problem solving. You're gonna start asking yourself these following questions. What pieces are gonna belong together? Do these forms feel consistent as a set? And how are people gonna use these day to day? And if you're doing a collection where you're gonna be making a bunch of these, then you need to ask yourself, can I make this piece consistently over and over again? So I'm gonna sketch a few different mugs, a few different bowls, plates, or even just rims or handles that I have in mind. And it's not like you have to sketch something and that's it, you're committed to it. You can revise that sketch over and over again. And if you're anything like me, your sketch is not going to visually look like what you want to create with your hands, which I think is a little bit crazy how we can be creative in one aspect and not the other. That's completely okay. We can't be perfect. But as long as you have something down where it can like kind of trigger your memory as to what the visual was in your head, that's more than enough. So now we're going to end up in the part that's a little bit insane, that's a little bit tough, ruthless editing. Now this part is going to be hard, but it's very much necessary. Not every idea is going to make it into the collection, and it shouldn't. And that's because you need to ask yourself this one important question. Does this piece support the story, or does it distract from it? A strong collection does not need a lot of pieces. It just needs the right pieces. So don't be scared to send something to the chopping block. Maybe that's a great silhouette for a different collection. And you don't have to completely scratch out your ideas. You can just leave them in the back of your mind, and you can use that for something later on. If something doesn't feel right, that's okay for later. You don't know when you're gonna need that idea or when it's gonna make more sense. That one idea that doesn't feel like it's a good fit for your current collection might be like the centerpiece of your next collection. So don't scrap out everything and get rid of it. Just save it for a later time. All right, guys, so we've done all of our planning, all of our brainstorming. We already know what combinations we want, and we've already figured out a little bit of the silhouettes that we want to do. So that means it's time for creating, and we'll catch up on that next week. And here's the thing, brainstorming is not about forcing creativity. It's about giving it structure. When you start with the feeling, build a visual direction, test intentionally, and design with purpose, the collection almost builds itself. And remember, you're allowed to evolve as you go. At the end of the day, this is clay. It's not concrete. So let me know, as 2026 is starting up, what do you have in mind for a collection? Is it surrounded by the season? Is it surrounded by something that happened recently? Is it surrounded by a recent memory? Or is it surrounded by a feeling that you're currently having? I want to know. I'm curious. But for now, that's it. Keep on creating, keep on connecting, and we'll see you next week when we start creating ourselves. Bye.